Well, Kenya's economy is believed to be on the tatters as much of the information that people are talking about. Is it true that Kenya's economy is headed in a wrong direction? It is surprising this has come from different quarters, more especially the county governments. Uh, Anna Waiguru, who is the chair of the Council of Governors, has faulted Treasury for not disbursing 92.5 billion to counties. And actually, this has led to counties are now in a worse situation that they are not able to pay their employees. They are not able to do anything. And recently, governors threatened to shut down counties. Why is that? And what is happening in Kenyan economy? It has left so many people baffled with all the promises of the Kenya Kwanza government. And once they came into power, they said that the previous regime left a bankrupt treasury, which does not have money. What is really happening? That there is no money to pay salary. Employees have been out of without being paid. And what happened? Why all of those demands they have demanded that they need to pay this? Why is it that we are not having? They wanted to collect taxes so that from taxes they will be able to pay the workers. Well, the economy doesn't run that way in most cases. Our governments, whatever, they don't run on just collecting taxes to make payments. Sometimes that's how some have a budget and they end up borrowing. So where did the rain start beating us? Indeed, Kenya's economy has seen an outgrowth. It has been growing at a fast rate. And our GDP, if look at our GDP, has been going up. Expansion in our GDP actually has been doing very well. You see, from 1960 going up to now, I think we are around 109 billion. When Kibaki left office, he left an economy of 55 billion. And when he inherited it from Moi, it was 12 billion. So from 2013, we have seen an uptick, how the economy has been growing. The economy grew, and that's how most of the countries do, and they grow their economy. Now, equally on the same, at the same time, we have seen also the uptick of various things like we have capped also. We have also seen that we have also seen the government spending go up. And you can see that from 2016, the government spending went up. And this now resulted that we had to embark more on borrowing, even if production went up, but also borrowing went up at the same time. Why is it that from 2016 we have seen a big uptick, maybe from 2013? Remember, this is the time we introduced the county governments, and some of those brought meant that we had to make other choices to increase this. Now, the main complaint which has been is that the old regime had done a lot of borrowing. Is borrowing bad for the country? In fact, if you look at some of the countries, many countries in the world, they still have a lot that they have borrowed from other governments. So GDP in a country, sometimes every country has a higher GDP. And it is measured in what we call the GDP of the country and the debt. We call the debt to GDP ratio. A country can borrow money depending on the GDP of the country. How capable is it paying? That is the ratio, the debt to GDP. And Kenya's GDP, progressively from 2004, they are showing that it has climbed from 44%. And right now, we are at around 68%. What does that mean? That we have, the debt we have is at 68% to our GDP, which means we are just below that. And most countries wanted to make it below 50. But is that practical in the real sense that we can have a GDP of 50%? There are some countries which do have that, but developing countries have not seen that happen. And actually, if you look at the GDP debt to income of some countries, Japan stands at 230, which means that they owe more than what their GDP produces. But you haven't heard Japan cry. Actually, when you compare with us in Kenya, where we are at 68, Germany is below 50, which is doing okay, it's a great economy. South Africa we are at par with South Africa, although South Africa is a big economy, but that they have borrowed almost like Kenya is. US is around 133%. UK, I know some are worried about this. UK is above 100. India is above 50. Nigeria seems to do well, is really quite below. And Ghana is around 7 something. So that is to understand that they start to put Kenya, when we put some of these great economies in the world, even in US, that it has more by GDP than our country. That start to put us in a bad footing. So is that enough reason to say that they are not able to pay salaries because they were to pay to service the debt? I think that's a no. That is not what is really the cause. First of all, many things have been thrown out. One of the things which is really putting the economy of Kenya at stake, which needs to be corrected, is lack of transparency. You know, when the Ruto government came in, there was lack of investor confidence. Many investors had to leave Kenya. And we saw how many corrupt cases which were going on dropped immediately. They came to power. And one big example is the one for the vice president, Rigathi Gachagua, who the case had been ruled and he had forfeited at 201 million, which you could know he had got through corruption means. When he went in, everything was reversed. Many cases of the people who were having corrupt cases, all of them were dropped and they have been absorbed in the Ruto government. How can they trust your government? You know, it's like when you you advertise for a watchman for a hen house, and a fox comes for interview, and you ask, what is your qualification? My qualification is that I became a vegetarian. I no longer eat hen, and that is the qualification for you to be a watchman or a hen house. So in that regard, when you cannot be able to pay salaries, is investor confidence. And what is really dragging Kenya is that we have to understand that the new leadership has a challenge. And, that is something we struggle. It is true that when the rural government came, they had been bombarded, they had been cascaded as mentions of corruption and whatever. And that investor confidence, they need to change. And how can they change? They need to change from the narrative, how they talk. There is a reckless talk which is not making that work very well. You cannot impugn and talk venom. That is not how to run the government. Take for example.
Akatolea Moi fujo, akaletwa kwa cooperation. Akatolea Kibaki fujo, akaletwa kwa nusu mkate. Akauzia Uhuru woga, akanunua, akaletwa kwa handshake. This time round, it cannot work. President William Ruto na mimi sio watu ya kuuziwa uoga.
Kwa kila kikao Rigathi.
So that is the words of a vice president who is supposed to set the vision, the hope for the people, talking with a lot of vitriol. That is not how. It is true that they came at around, and they right, they have gone to the Eurobond to get more money. This is what exactly they were being asked during that time. That is a corruption in Kenya. It is equity. How people in corruption, they only want to have it. It's really a bad scenario, and we have to do. Now that we have gone to the Eurobond, and this is the Eurobond who many Kenyans didn't know where the really money went. They didn't see the much difference, and they were complaining about it.
To the best of my knowledge, even if you went and Googled, forget about even talking to Rotich, and Googled today on matters to do with Eurobond, you will find the explanation from the minister, from Treasury, online. Forget about even looking for anybody.
Okay, but he did not. That's the point. He promised, and he did not.
What do you mean he did not?
He did not. He said he'll give us blow.
If he has given, I have a copy of what was posted on the website, answering every question.
Okay. Again, economists argue about this, and conventional economists will teach us that if you pump so much hard currency in an economy, government borrowing for banks will go down. That is definite. And these are the questions that have been asked. And as a result, banking lending rates will drastically go down. The affected economy will experience strengthening of the operating local currency. Why didn't our economy respond to this? And finally, on this matter of Eurobond. Recently, at the State House Summit, when Edward Onko, the Auditor General who is investigating this, when President Kenyatta almost rubbished what he was doing by seeking to go to New York to investigate this, isn't that interfering with investigations? Why won't you just let him finish his investigations? Because you're saying all these allegations,
my friend,
why can't he finish the allegations, the investigations without anybody interfering, so that we know whether it's true or not?
Mr. Ugo is free. He has been to the U.S. not once on that matter, for your information, right? He has been to the U.S. not once. And all the books are open on this matter of Eurobond. And let me tell you, Hussein, on national television, I can look Kenyans in the eye and tell them the allegations about the loss of Eurobond is nonsense. It is really, it is not possible that any government, can collude with another government to steal money that was borrowed on behalf of the people.
But at any one time, in this government,
so what
but any one time, in this government or any other, would you advise anyone to interfere in investigations?
We don't interfere with any investigation. We don't interfere.
That is President Trudeau when he was a vice president, and he was being asked about where they were about the Eurobond, and he was defending it seriously. And yet Kenyans up to now, they don't know where it went. That is where the lack of transparency is. That where Kenya needs to work very hard if they have to salvage their image on that area. Looking at the world facts, how even now with all of these and like the country profile in the world fact right now, in a matter of property rights, we score very low at 40. Judicial effectiveness at 39. Government integrity at 30. Tax burden, very high. Government spending. Now, what does that mean? Some of those things, man. Regulatory efficiency, aggressive bureaucratic behavior towards business, and the delays in obtaining business licenses. The government is the largest formal sector employer. Approximately 80% of the workforce is employed formally. The government continues to regulate prices. And also, how about open to markets? We score very low. Kenya has 3 preferential trade agreements. And some of these things have put Kenya in a very, very awkward position that we really do not know. When we score that very low, where do we expect us to be? If we are scoring like now in property rights, do you know that 70% of Kenya people don't have titles? Titles are not given. There is a lot of corruption. The judiciary does not help either. Now, take another example of also a country which is in South America, Norway, as a comparison. The overall score is 70, and is ranked number 34. Property rights, 84. Judicial effectiveness, you can see up there. The tax burden is at 72. Now, the reason why I'm giving this is how to understand how this affects contracts and the secured interest in property are recognized and enforced by law. Most land has a clear property title. The judiciary is transparent and independent, but the courts function solely. But when it comes to Transparency International ranked Norway the least corrupt Latin American country in the 2022 corruption index. And corruption statutes are enforced to prevent bribery and other corrupt practices. So this one, when we try to compare the two countries, this is where we saw judicial effectiveness, people interfering with the judiciary. And you can see how people are talking. And this is what has led to us questioning. How much do we respect other people's property? If you want to see what
ya zile mashamba kubwa kubwa mumejishikia, tukianzia na hapo Thika Road Nairobi, hapo Ruiru. Kabla hatujaenda Taita Taveta, kabla hatujaenda Nakuru, mali ya Mkenya ikivamiwa, hata hizo mashamba zenyu.
That is the majority leader in the National Assembly, Ichung'wah, saying that in public. And then immediately we see, in 2 days, we see people attacking Kenyatta's farm, stealing. No police went there. Is that a respect of property people's rights? Is that a reason why people can invest in a country? And up to now, nobody even has ever called Ichung'wah to go and record a statement. That is a man who we look at as a leader internationally.
Tutazivamia na wenye hawana mashamba wapate mashamba Kenya hii. Musifikiri ati wananchi wa kawaida ndio watapoteza mali. Even you will pay a price if you continue to instigate violence.
Now, where is this investor confidence that we are looking for in a nation? Those are President Ruto. It is time to rule, and you have to instill confidence in people. You can't leave people go talk like that and go scot-free. How can we have that investor confidence in a country? Taxes, now that you realized, the government has to borrow to balance. And how do we start the economy? The economy, economics 101, is simple. If the economy is not doing well, we increase money circulation. That is where we have the fiasco policy called. If expansionary fiasco policy, if there's no money in the country, the government will increase spending, and that is the time it will have to lower taxes. If we feel that the economy is overheating, we apply contractionary fiasco policy. Government spending goes down, taxes goes up. What are you doing now? You are increasing taxes to get money. Money is not created like that. And what do I mean by government spending? Government spending is not increasing number of ministers, number of chief administrative secretaries. No. Government spending is when you increase money to schools, you pay counties. When counties are paid, they pay local contractors, and the money gets in circulation when people have money. That's how the economy grows. Now the economy is standing because the government is not spending. The counties are not able to pay their employees. When employees are paid, they go to hotels, they go to shops, they buy, they pay their debt obligation when contracts are paid. That is how the economy grows, and then people have money. Now, as you saw that county governments are crying. They are crying because, not only the county government, because everything now is standstill. The money the subsidies which were going to schools get the money, they pay local contractors who supply food, who supply educational materials, and then the country, that's how we grow the country. That's how we spend. If we don't spend, the country does not grow. And then when this money is in circulation, that's when the government is able to tax them, and then the economy grows. I know President Uhuru one time asked, how much money is money we borrow? If we can borrow other people's money to build roads, like, thank God, at least Kenya, most of the roads networks are good. But if now you say you are not going to build roads, so come 2027, what are you going to tell people? What development did you do? So Kenya's economy is still able to pay for any debt obligation if all of the money, if we fight corruption. And many people will want to see President Ruto come out and tell us how he's fighting corruption in Kenya. Even his economic advisor said there's a lot of wastage. So if we can control corruption, we have enough money to pay for our debt obligation. We can take even more debts to do development. So long as that money is put where is going to help the economy grow. The economy grows everywhere. People use other people's money. Banks, we use the money to generate money, but we have to have that investor confidence. So the idea of telling us that the debt in the country is beyond, no. Kenya is still solid. All it needs from its leaders is to tell us that the good days are ahead of us. Giving an example, and there was one president in 1970s, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter was the president, I think, in 1979. The economy was bad because there was a fuel crisis, because we had an issue with the Middle East, and Americans were so dismayed, things were bad. Jimmy Carter came up and they said, we are going to have tough times. Things are not going to be good. They are not rosy, other things. And they said he's not even going to put the Christmas tree. What? It was so gloomy. But when Ronald Reagan came, a good orator, he promised Americans a future, that America's good days are ahead of us. Things are going to be good. They listened. They bought the hope. And then Jimmy Carter lost that election that year. And Reagan became the president. Do the same. The president has to give hope to the people. Don't tell people that is broke. When you are a father at home and even if you don't have money, you don't have to tell your kids that, oh, we are going to die of starvation. Exude confidence. But number one thing, to put your image in the world and disappoint people, you have to be seen fighting corruption. You never talk about corruption. You have never seen it doing. And that is the nick point that which will make you become a great president, if you can have that economy. The economy will always go up. You know, Bill Clinton said the economy is stupid. I say, even these big countries, they still have that issue. And as we have said, but this reckless talk about, like Gachawa saying that the Uru family needs to ask Kenyatta family to surrender part of their land to Mau families. My friend, let the sleeping dogs sleep. If we would be fighting for our rights in this war, we would never get them. Let the history, that is where we started, and let us look. No, we cannot lead the country looking at the rear mirror. You cannot drive forward while looking at the rear mirror. We have to look forward if we have to succeed. Kenya is still a great country, and we can still come out of it if we can only change the language. The money needs to go to counties. Counties need to flourish. We cannot leave counties suffering, people suffering, and then we expect to change the economy. No. Get the money, use other people's money to spur the country to go forward. Our deserves, and if we can ever do this, our economy will go. So the economy is not heading the wrong direction. It's only that the people who are trying to head Kenya's economy a wrong direction. Still a peaceful country, and we really need to appreciate that despite all the bickering, we cherish peace, and that is what everybody wants. And we want to respect the people who have been democratically elected, but you have to do the job so that you will be remembered